They said you had to be handsome, rich, or mysterious. They said it was a matter of luck or genetics, but they forgot to tell you the most important detail. It's what you say in the first 10 seconds that decides everything. Yes, everything. Attraction, desire, connection. It all stems from a simple sentence when said with the right intention, tone, and words. And this is where most men go wrong, trying to impress when they should just activate what her brain most wants to feel. It may seem counterintuitive, but the game of seduction isn't won by the most beautiful speaker. It's won by the one who understands the secret code of the female mind. And this code isn't magic. It's science. It's applied psychology. It's emotional language. And if you know the formula, it can generate an almost addictive effect. The kind of impact that makes a woman remember you when she hits the pillow at night. This video is not just another one with ready-made phrases thrown to the wind. Here, you'll discover how to turn 10 seconds into a magnetic force field. You'll understand how your tone of voice, your words, and even your pauses can trigger invisible triggers of curiosity, fantasy, connection, and, yes, even obsession. And no, you won't need to memorize anything. You'll just learn how to speak with truth, with intention, and with power. Get ready to change the way you talk, and perhaps, without exaggeration, the way you connect with any woman. Because once you understand this secret, you'll never see the game of seduction the same way again. There's something almost magical about human instinct being activated in the first seconds of an interaction. The look in your eyes, the tone of voice, and even the opening words act as triggers capable of eliciting immediate emotion in women. Science and psychology show that in less than 10 seconds, the female brain begins to react to subtle cues that indicate confidence, magnetism, and power. This first impression, charged with desire and curiosity, opens the door to a connection that feels natural and inevitable. The female mind is extremely sensitive to non-verbal cues, such as body language and the intensity of a gaze. It's not just about appearance, but also about how someone conveys security, calm, and even a touch of mystery. Attraction is an invisible chemical, a reaction that begins when attention is aroused without apparent effort. A slight smile, combined with a steady gaze, can have an impact that words alone could never achieve. Imagine someone approaching with a curious look and a light-hearted phrase, almost like a shared secret. The psychological effect of this is powerful, as it creates a spontaneous emotion and gives the feeling that there's something unique about the interaction. Seduction begins here, in the play of subtleties, where the power of small gestures makes all the difference. This dynamic sparks interest and keeps the other person's mind locked in the moment. It's fascinating to see how attraction arises from the unexpected. It's not about neediness or fear of rejection, but about connecting with the other person genuinely, conveying empathy, truth, and trust. A woman, upon capturing this emotional warmth, feels a natural desire to explore this chemistry further. Short phrases, combined with a well-balanced tone of voice, act as keys that unlock an almost obsessive curiosity. When you understand this science of instant attraction, it becomes impossible not to see how crucial the first few seconds of a conversation are. A practical example. Instead of, "Hi, how are you?" try something like, "Do you know that your gaze has an almost hypnotic calm?" This phrase, with its intensity and naturalness, activates emotions and sets the stage for something even greater. And this is where the power of first words comes in. There's a quiet power in the first words you speak. They're not just phrases floating in the air. They're codes that activate specific parts of the emotional brain. In the female universe, the right words at the right time provoke visceral reactions. They awaken desire, curiosity, interest, and even fantasy. And the most curious thing, All of this happens before she even consciously realizes what she's feeling. It's instinct acting with surprising speed. A common compliment can be easily forgotten, but when you say something with impact, creating a mental image and an emotional sensation, the effect is lasting. Saying, for example, "There's something about your energy that made me stop for a second," sounds secretive, a touch of mystery, and at the same time conveys attention and presence. This choice of words activates desire because it breaks from the ordinary and touches the invisible, the emotional, the magnetic, the sensitive. Psychology has proven that words associated with sensations such as warmth, security, intensity, and enchantment tend to create deep connections. The brain doesn't clearly distinguish between what's real and what's emotionally evocative when language is well constructed. This gives the communicator immense power to create internal experiences in the listener, generating connection even before any physical touch. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. The tone, the rhythm, the magnetism behind the phrases shape the female mind's reaction. Phrases that seem spontaneous but were strategically thought out function as small emotional portals. An example: "I like the way you seem at peace, even in all this chaos." This phrase brings calm, presence, emotion, contrast, and it captivates. It really does. If you've already understood the value of capturing attention with a simple phrase, imagine what happens when you structure those words with a precise method. That's where verbal enchantment is born. A formula as simple as it is mesmerizing. There's an almost magical, yet profoundly logical formula for transforming any compliment into something that sticks in a woman's mind. Think of it in 3 steps: observe, highlight, and personalize. It's that simple. Verbal seduction is born from attentive observation, emotional connection, and the delivery of words that don't seem memorized, but rather discovered in the moment. Science calls this emotional anchoring. We call it enchantment. It works something like this. You observe something real and specific in her, transform it into an emotionally impactful image, and finish with a personal touch. An example: "I noticed how intense your eyes get when you speak passionately. It feels like your whole world changes in that instant." Here we have instinct, gaze, emotion, intensity, curiosity, and desire, all in one sentence. This type of language creates an effect the brain loves: emotional surprise combined with unique validation. It's not just about pleasing, it's about making an impression. The phrase works because it's loaded with truth and, at the same time, activates a feminine blind spot, the desire to be noticed for what few others notice. This triggers an almost automatic connection, as if an intimate story were being written there. Live. The power of verbal enchantment lies in avoiding the generic, "No, you're beautiful." That's just noise. Women have heard it 1,000 times, and most of it without emotion. But when you say, "The way you think attracts me more than any smile," what you trigger is intellectual desire, emotional curiosity, and genuine interest. And that's the game. Transforming compliments into triggers for real conquest. And if a simple sentence already has this power, imagine what happens when your voice enters the scene, the tone, the pause, the intention. All of this intensifies the impact of the words and disarms emotional defenses without her even realizing it. That's what we're going to talk about now. Few people understand the true power of their voice. And even fewer realize that, often, the tone of voice speaks louder than the actual words. The female brain, highly sensitive to sonic nuances, reacts instantly to how a message is delivered. A calm, warm, and intentional voice can create an invisible magnetic field. It's not shouting, it's not whispering, it's knowing how to control the rhythm, confidence and emotional intensity of what you say. Have you ever noticed how some people speak and everything seems more interesting? They use strategic pauses, shift tones, and naturally modulate emotion. This isn't a gift, it's practice. Psychology calls this prosody, the melody of speech. When you master vocal magnetism, it creates a gentle, hypnotic effect, and this activates the feminine instinct for attention, connection, and, yes, desire. Want to test this? Say the same phrase 2 different ways. Once quickly and eagerly, once slowly, firmly, with warmth in your chest. For example, "You have a different way of looking at me," said in a rush. It sounds like anything. Said with intention and pause, it becomes a seduction trigger. The voice is a direct channel to the subconscious. It doesn't deceive. You either convey security or insecurity, and as counterintuitive as it may seem, the silence between words also speaks volumes. A well-placed space between sentences creates tension, anticipation, and mystery. This emotional play allows the female mind to fill in the gaps with fantasy. This is where control of the conversation shifts. You don't need to say much, just know how to say it. This creates impact without apparent effort. Now, imagine combining that voice with sentences that touch deep emotional points, sentences constructed with the logic of feminine language. It's like having the right key to open a door that few can even find. And we'll talk about these secret keys later. Female language isn't just made of words, it's made of emotional layers. When a man learns to recognize the triggers that arouse security, curiosity, and emotion in a woman, he moves beyond the shallow game of seduction and into a realm of real connection. There's an invisible pattern that governs female interest, and he responds to what touches his heart, mind, and desire all at the same time. Phrases like, "You seem to understand what no one else sees," or "There's something about you that makes me want to be silent just to hear you," naturally trigger emotional weak points. They're not flirtatious, they're mirrors, and the effect is immediate. These triggers speak to the feminine in a subtle way, drawing attention without forcing anything. It's as if the woman senses the truth there, and this disarms her without resistance. It's important to understand that women react more to the feeling a phrase evokes than to its literal content. When a woman feels uniquely perceived, something in her mind automatically connects with the person who provoked it. Science calls this emotional identification, and psychology has proven that this type of language activates areas of the brain linked to pleasure and trust. And it's not about manipulation, but about sensitivity. Most men make the mistake of trying to impress, when true power lies in expressing themselves, showing vulnerability with poise, using words that convey warmth and empathy. This turns any conversation into a breeding ground for desire. The secret isn't in appearing interesting, but in making her feel truly special. And when she feels special, curiosity grows. Her mind begins to wonder, who is this guy anyway? This unspoken question, this little mystery, is the seed for the next step, planting, in just 10 seconds, a delicious doubt that captures her attention like an emotional spell. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in the human mind, and in women, it takes on an almost emotional dimension. When properly awakened, the right doubt lingers like a silent obsession. Instead of trying to prove your worth or conquer with excess, the secret is to plant a small question in her subconscious. Something that makes her want to know more about you, about what you feel, or about what's behind your words. It works best when the phrase seems casual but carries a hidden meaning. For example, "There's something I've noticed about you, but I don't think it's time to say it yet." That's it. That's it. This phrase triggers curiosity, activates the emotional mind, and generates the desire to continue the conversation. She'll be left with that sense of mystery, trying to decipher what was said or what was left between the lines. This is the psychological game few know how to play. This type of emotional provocation activates areas of the brain linked to anticipation and reward. Attraction, desire, fantasy, and interest dance together in this invisible chemistry. The power lies in leaving loose ends, yet ones laden with meaning, creating an almost and a maybe, an after. Her mind will fill in the gaps with imagination, and you become an open-ended story, hard to forget. But be careful. This only works if done calmly and with control. Haste ruins the effect. The voice needs to be aligned, the gaze steady, the intention light. It's this balance that makes the phrase a trigger, not a trick. The effect of curiosity is even more powerful when it's mixed with genuine emotion, as if there were something unseen but deeply felt. And if leaving a doubt can hold a woman's mind, imagine what happens when a simple mistake makes it all fall apart. Because yes, there are phrases, tones, and attitudes that in just 10 seconds destroy the entire connection. And that's exactly what comes next. The first few seconds are cruel. They either spark desire or provoke immediate repulsion. And the worst part, most men have no idea they're sabotaging their own connection right from the start. One of the most common mistakes is anxiety disguised as friendliness. Speaking too quickly, trying to impress, complimenting someone's physique right away, all of this screams neediness. And the female mind, guided by instinct and emotional awareness, senses this immediately. Another fatal mistake is trying to appear like someone you're not. Using emotionless, rehearsed phrases, forcing a tone of voice that doesn't match your personality, or acting with artificial overconfidence. This breaks the spell, creates disconnection, and even fear. A woman's brain seeks signs of authenticity and emotional security, and rejects anything that sounds like a performance. Desire isn't born from theatrics, it's born from truth. And then there are the generic compliments. Saying "you're beautiful" in the first few seconds is like handing out a flyer at a traffic light. It doesn't create impact, doesn't spark imagination, doesn't spark curiosity. Worse, you end up just another person. Women need to feel they're being seen for what's rare, not for what everyone else has already noticed. The key is to notice the details and transform them into phrases with emotional power. Talking too much also kills attraction. A man who rushes to fill every silence reveals insecurity. The pause, the present look, the calm tone, all of these communicate much more than a rehearsed speech. Remember, in the beginning, less is more. And if your energy is out of alignment, tense, anxious, hesitant, this will be picked up even before the words. And the most interesting thing, when you avoid these mistakes and use phrases tested and validated by behavioral science, the game changes completely. Because yes, some words have a proven effect. They work in an almost mathematical way, and that's what we're going to talk about now. The science of human behavior has been exploring with a magnifying glass what really works when it comes to creating quick connection and emotional desire. And what the research shows is fascinating. There are specific phrases, tested in social psychology studies, that activate trust, intimacy, and even enchantment. They're not magic. They're a result of how the brain reacts to emotional stimuli and engaging language. And yes, they work in a matter of seconds. One such phrase, validated in social approximation tests, is, "If someone understood you correctly, what would you want them to see in you first?" It seems simple, but it triggers a combination of vulnerability, curiosity, and power. The woman feels invited into a deep emotional space, without pressure, with empathy. This phrase isn't just beautiful, it activates chemical reactions linked to dopamine and oxytocin, the hormones of pleasure and connection. Another powerful example is, There's something about you I haven't yet understood, and that's what attracts me most. This phrase awakens mystery, the instinct for conquest, and at the same time validates a woman's uniqueness. Its psychological impact lies in the balance between doubt and attention. It says, between the lines, I'm interested, but you still intrigue me, and this ignites a mild, irresistible obsession. These phrases are powerful because they speak directly to the unconscious. They avoid the obvious, break the automatic pattern, and activate real emotions. When said with the right tone and genuine presence, they act as profound triggers. It's not just about the phrase, it's about the intention behind it, the emotion in the voice, the look that accompanies it. All of this amplifies the effect. And the best part, when you mix this kind of language with lightness and emotional truth, an almost secret element of attraction emerges, confident vulnerability, a rare but incredibly magnetic state that disarms any resistance and opens the door to something more intimate. There's a fascinating paradox that few master, showing vulnerability without losing control. This, in the world of attraction, is pure art. When a man expresses emotional truth with calm and confidence, something rare happens. A woman feels she's dealing with someone strong enough to be real. This activates a deep desire for intimacy, connection, and trust. Her mind realizes this man isn't playing games. He's feeling, but don't confuse this with venting neediness or asking for approval. Confident vulnerability isn't about exposing yourself too much, but revealing yourself in the right measure, with intention. Saying something like, I wasn't always good at this, but I've learned that when we speak from the heart, everything changes. This phrase, with the right tone and measured emotion, directly touches the feminine. It shows truth, but also evolution. Sensitivity with strength. The great secret lies in the light-hearted delivery. It's when you talk about a past insecurity, but with eyes that convey that you've overcome it. It's when you share a doubt without shrinking from it. This generates magnetism because the feminine instinct recognizes something rare there, a man who feels but doesn't lose himself. A man who knows who he is, even when he shows how he feels. This type of communication creates an emotional field of emotional security. And when a woman feels she can be herself around someone like this, something much more powerful than attraction is born, an emotional connection. It's the invisible link between what she wants and what you convey. Seduction stops being a performance and becomes an emotional experience, and that is unforgettable. Now imagine putting all this into practice with carefully crafted sentences that convey this balance of emotion and confidence. And if you're still unsure where to start, follow me as I show you 3 ready-made examples and the psychological reasoning behind each one. Let's get straight to the point. Here are 3 powerful phrases, each built on the triggers we've explored so far. The first, there's something about you that makes me slow down the world for a second. This phrase combines emotional impact with subtle praise. It triggers exclusivity, mystery, and excitement and creates a mental image, the world stopping, that sticks in her mind. Psychology calls this vivid emotional anchoring. Second sentence. You have that kind of presence that doesn't need to be spoken loudly to be felt. Here, the focus is on silent appreciation, something that communicates attention, sensitivity, and perception. This phrase activates the female emotional brain through non-obvious recognition. It evokes inner power, magnetism, and security, which heightens the desire for connection and the fantasy of those who perceive her in this unique way. Third sentence, I feel like if I listened to you for a few minutes, I would understand much more than words. This one hits deep, conveying vulnerability with control and evoking emotional intimacy. The woman feels she's being read beyond the surface, and that's extremely attractive. The right tone in this delivery makes all the difference. Speak slowly, pausing at the end. This prolongs the emotional impact of the sentence. These phrases aren't magical in themselves. The secret lies in the emotional context, the intention, the tone of voice, and the rhythm. Said in a rush, they become cliché. Said with truth and control, they become an emotional habit. Practice leads to naturalness, and naturalness leads to confidence. Try one a day, observe reactions, adjust the rhythm, play with the subtle play of language. No rush, no rushing. Now that you've seen the power of each word when used consciously, you might be wondering, but is it really possible to make someone obsessed in just 10 seconds? That's the right question. And the answer begins with the first glance and the first sentence. That's what will surprise you in the introduction that follows. Now tell me, after all this, are you going to keep saying those same generic phrases that never worked? Or are you going to start using the real power you have in your hands, the power to create desire, connection, and impact with just a few words? The truth is, you don't need luck, you need strategy, you need intention, and most importantly, you need to practice what you've learned here like someone carrying a valuable secret, because indeed you do. What will change if you apply this today? And most importantly, what will stay the same if you do nothing? Have you ever stopped to think about how many opportunities have gone unnoticed due to the lack of the right word at the right time? Maybe today is the day that changes. Maybe now is the moment you step out of autopilot mode and step into the game with awareness. So tell me, which of these phrases will you try first? What surprised you the most here? I want to hear from you in the comments because this exchange is what keeps everything alive. Your question might be someone else's question, and your insight could be the missing key to someone taking the next step. We are all students and teachers on this path. And of course, if you enjoyed the content and want to continue learning how to speak with power, attract with authenticity, and become magnetic without having to pretend anything, you know, right? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and come with me on this journey. We've barely started.